And okay, there we go. Now it wants to work. Thank you once again for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. My microphone did it yet again. I have no idea why it's doing. I need to get a new microphone. I have no idea why it's doing this, and it's really, really upsetting me. But regardless, let's go ahead and get this terrible segment over. Let's go get this show over with a couple of hot takes from a lot of these fans that were submitted on an Instagram account called Court Coverage. You guys can go check that out. They put really good stuff. I like looking at their posts, and a lot of these fans, like, they come in and they give their hot takes to his they give hot takes to this Instagram user, and once they do that, he posts them later, like after the week, and he like posts like the craziest ones or like the best ones that he thought came out of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that up real quick and give some of the hot takes that he has. Just give me 1 second. And okay, so here we have the hot takes from Court Coverage. So the hot take number 1 is that the Bucks completely drop to the play-in. Now, this, I'm a little bit stuck now, because right now, like, the Bucks, they came out and they're winning. But at the same time, like, you know, you guys know how I feel about Doc Rivers, and it's really difficult to judge now. Like, if this was happening, like, if this hot take came in before the All-Star break, then I would agree with it. But now that they're, like, out here winning, I think it's a little bit more difficult now to decide, because I really don't know, like, do they have the chance to make it all the way to the if they're going to fall all the way from that far down. I don't think they're going to take that much of a fall, like, in the rankings when they, like, continue on the rest of the season. Like, it's weird to see the Bucks as a play-in team. I just can't picture it. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, again, it's Doc Rivers, and it's like you can't really put anything past Doc Rivers. So I'm going to say, like, for now, that this hot take is on pause until I see more of these Bucks. I can't really make a decision on whether or not this is a good one or a bad one, because, again, like, they came out winning after the All-Star break, and usually after the All-Star break, when you come out winning, it's like you set the tone for, like, the remainder of the season. Usually the teams that come out winning are the teams that end up staying winning towards the end. And if they come out hot, then, like, again, things would end up being, I feel like now that they came out hot for after the All-Star break, it's like things are just only going to get better for this team. But that's the way I see it. So, hot take number 2 is that the Golden State Warriors will make a Western Conference Finals appearance. Now, I do not agree with this one. I really don't agree with this whatsoever. I think Klay Thompson is a little bit too inconsistent to, again, like, I get it, he's coming off the bench and whatnot, but he also takes a lot of shots still, despite coming off the bench. And I'm not sure if Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are going to have that firepower on the offensive side of the ball and that reliable firepower that they usually get from Klay and they usually get from Curry to make a deep playoff run, especially, like, after coming off of last year losing to the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, I don't really see Golden State making it to the Western Conference Finals. I see them making it to the semifinals at most, but I believe that this team is going to be a first-round exit, and they're going to, like, they'll be a play-in team, and they're going to win in the play-in, and they're going to lose in the postseason. That's how I see the Golden State. That's their ceiling for me in Golden State. And they've gone through like a lot of struggles going like throughout the season. Draymond getting suspended for a couple of games. Now we have the Klay Thompson issue with his inefficient shooting. But at the same time, with all of this, they also were able to make a great player out of Kuminga, and they were also able to make a great player out of Brandon Podziemski, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, but forgive me if I mispronounce it again. But they do a great job with that, which brings me into my next hot take, actually, which is Brandon Podziemski will be an all-star at some point in his career. Now, this sort of plays into like if I think they will make the Western Conference Finals, because if he does like what Jordan Poole did, like Jordan Poole, he got hot towards after like the All-Star break and going into the playoffs. And that's what sort of led him to getting the super big contract extension that he got from the Warriors and the big contract that he got from Washington. So with that in mind, if Brandon is able to reach that level in the playoffs, then the Golden State Warriors might have a legitimate shot at making a Western Conference Finals appearance. Again, that's if this happens, however. Now, Podziemski being an all-star at some point in his career, I 100% think that's going to happen, yes. He's shown that he can be a great asset to the team, and like while he's obviously like still like young and he's like still developing, I feel like he's in the same spot that Brunson is right now, where it's like he has a great point guard, he's learning from that great point guard. Going into the playoffs, if he has a great playoff series, a lot of teams are going to want to look at him and are going to want to pay him, and then he'll eventually end up choosing a team that will give him the money that he deserves. And again, if the situation that he plays well in the playoffs eventually pans out, if that happens. But I definitely do see this as a possibility. And with that out of the way, let's go into the next hot take, which is the Knicks are a bottom 5 team without Jalen Brunson. After the trade, I'm not entirely sure we can say that right now, because again, they still have Julius Randle. Like, they don't have him now because like his injury, but if they didn't have Jalen Brunson, they'd still have Randle, and they'd also have Precious, and they'd have DiVincenzo, who are like OG Anunoby as well. He's a great defender. Julius Randle, like, he provides scoring option along with DiVincenzo. So I don't think the Knicks become a bottom 5 team. Do they become worse? Absolutely, they become worse. They might like be a 10 seed or a 6 seed at the worst with But then again, even when they did have a pretty good year in the regular season without Jalen Brunson. Granted, they lost to Trae Young in the first round, and they couldn't make it to the playoffs the year afterwards. But still, that was still a good year without Jalen Brunson. Like, at least for the Knicks, who have been used to like not having good years like for a very, very long time. And it was a great start. That's sort of what it has been. But regardless, like, I don't really think that, like, now, especially now with, like, Bogdanović in the lineup and the rest of the firepower that team has, I don't think they're a bottom 5 team without Brunson. The rest of the players are just, like, are relatively good, and, like, I feel like they could lead the team to a decent amount of wins. And going into the next hot take, which is it's not my favorite. The Brooklyn Nets are the worst organization in basketball. And yes, as of right now, honestly, I mean, yeah, like, that seems to be the case with the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, so far it's like the times they've been relevant have been very far in between, and the times that they've been irrelevant are like more times than I can count. And the decisions that they make like consistently, like with their free agent signings, with their trades, with all that stuff, like all the free agents, all that. Like it's like there's really like no other franchise that like hasn't really been this bad. Like you look at the Knicks, like okay, they're a bad franchise, but at least they have history with championships. Like the Nets don't have any championships to run back to whatsoever. And like you might think like, oh well, I mean like at least you have a finals appearance. Like look at the Clippers. Like the Clippers have 0 finals appearances. I mean yes, but like the Nets got swept in one of them and they ended up losing like in 5 games in the other one. So did it really matter the fact that the Nets were in the finals? And not only that, but it's like, I mean, okay, and nobody talks about that finals. So like, I mean, again, like I guess that like winning an Eastern Conference Finals trophy is like a big deal, but at the end of the day, it's like who ends up winning that last ring, and like who ends up going all the way. It's who ends up getting this, and they didn't end up doing that. And like I feel like the Clippers, while they haven't made it to the finals all the time, they've had great teams, and they've at least given like their fans like something to like potentially look forward to. I mean, granted, it ended in like it ended in fire and flames afterwards, but like at least they gave them something to look forward to. The Nets have barely given their fans anything to really look forward to in their franchise. I mean, apart from having Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the team, there was like still people speculating that team was going to collapse because of Kyrie Irving, and like lo and behold, they end up collapsing. Obviously, marking it as one of the second worst. That was one of the actually like could be the worst or the second worst trade of all time. Honestly, like I mean, and they have a history of making these bad trades too. If you guys don't remember, they traded for a rusty Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett in exchange for their picks, which ended up being Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But I digress. Not to mention signing Ben Simmons. Not signing Ben Simmons, but trading Ben Simmons to get him on the roster. Like, why? Why? Ben Simmons cannot play basketball. He is not good. Why is he on my team? But I digress. Regardless, yes, I think the Nets are the worst organization in basketball. Like, there's no argument for that. And the Pistons, even now, like the Pistons have history of winning championships. And like the Wizards have history of winning championships. It's like all the bad teams that are like you could think of now. The Spurs, obviously, like they have great history with winning championships. All the bad teams that you could think of right now are they all have like they've all had either a great history or like they've had something to look forward to at some point. And like I just feel like the Nets, they haven't had that. And the last hot take before I wrap everything up is David Fizdale is a better head coach than Doc Rivers. Now, as much as I don't like Doc Rivers, I cannot agree with this statement whatsoever because Fizdale's head coaching career is so much worse than Doc's. So, for starters, he's been an assistant head coach for most of his life, and an assistant coach for most of his time in his career. He's only really had head coaching experience for 3 years, and in all of those years, he's had a losing record. So, even though Doc Rivers, like, you know, he has a history of choking in the playoffs, like, he at least leads his team to wins in the regular season, and he ended up getting a ring on his resume in 2008. So, obviously, like, you can't say that Fizdale is a better coach than Doc. Like, that's just a terrible take. That's just a Lakers fan being angry, honestly. But with that, we're out of time for the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And I'm sorry for some of the technical difficulties that were going on with my microphone. I really had no idea what was the problem. Like, that never happened before, and hopefully that never happens again. But with that, I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.